Yeah, welcome everybody to the Survival Report. This is Robert Henry, and wanted to talk to you about something today that comes up a lot in the preparedness movement. You've been hearing a lot of the last few years, and people are kind of taking things out of context with it, kind of ruining the concept, and that is, of course, community. Community, 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 community. Boy, that's all you seem to hear oftentimes nowadays. People kind of get the wrong concept of what that means, of what it should mean to us in relation to the prepper and survivalist community and things like that. I'm kind of covering some of the things here in the notes as I go along. Now, where did all this come to being? This came to being with things like Jericho. Oh, you remember Jericho, where the EMP and the attacks on 7 or 8 cities in the U.S. Very popular show. I think it was on CBS or something back in 2005-ish, 2006-ish, something like that. Small town in Kansas. Did I say I was from New York? No, I'm at Kansas. Small town from Kansas, little movie reference there if you recognize it. And they evidently, didn't suffer too bad. Everybody was still well fed, and the Maybelline factories and everything were still in good operation because all the chicks looked well. And always had plenty of makeup on and all that good stuff, and the community banded together, and under the auspices of Mayor Green, who had been there 1,000 years, and him and Methuselah had ruled that country for that county and that city for way too long, and all that good stuff. Made possible, the other big thing that community concept came about from was 1 cigarette after. Oops, I meant 1 second after the book, and of course we jokingly call it 1 cigarette after because he obsessively talks about cigarettes left and right throughout the whole book. After everything or prior to every event, it's. And then John sat down and had a cigarette, and he killed the cannibal leader, and then he had a cigarette, and boy, that cigarette felt good. And it seemed to be more of a Philip Morris type commercial than throughout the whole book or audio book than a lot of practical survival information. However, people took that and ran with it, be it Jericho or 1 cigarette after and things like that, with the concepts that they were going to work within their community, and they were going to survive with a bunch of unprepared people, and somehow those unprepared people were not going to pick them clean and look at them, being prepared ahead of time as a resource. And of course, this sort of genre is also very popular in various survival fiction, and I'm not going to mention any of the books and things like that, but suffice to say, it's for a smaller event, i.e. a hurricane, something like that. Sure, yeah, it's a possible type of thing. When there is the obvious outlook in people's mind that help will arrive, be it tomorrow, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, something like that, as in a hurricane. That's the signs you see with drunk bubbas with guns, that people put up around their little subdivisions, and 2 guys sit out there with a beer in one hand and their shotgun in the other, and the looters who are just looking for easier targets of opportunity go the other way. Okay, in a short-term situation, that might be possible. Now, I want to look at a couple things here. Let's look at some similar words to community. All right, you can look this up in the dictionary. First off, we have commune. Okay, not exactly a good context there. I don't really want to join a commune, and to be clear to everybody who has never really interacted with a real survival group or with a real survival retreat situation, I have done that over the last 27 years, all throughout the United States, mainly east of the Mississippi, but more than a few dozen groups. Some fully functional, well-working groups, some just getting started, various things like that. I have never, ever, 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 ever ever found a group that does a true commune type approach. And of course, where does commune lead to? It leads to communism, community, commune, communism. Kind of seeing a pattern here. Uh-oh. And of course, worst of all is community organizer. And of course, we all know why you don't want somebody like that leading things. Okay. All right. Little history there, the root words in that. Guys, community in the form of networking with others, other like-minded people being the key thing, i.e. not having some ad hoc plan where at the last minute you're going to be the savior of your subdivision. Okay. Bad concept. Where do we get this? Again, where we get a lot of bad ideas. Various survival fiction works. Okay, what is the savior of the savior of the subdivision mentality? Well, that is the bad concept that says, when the time comes, I'm going to, gather together with the people I barely know that aren't preparing in my subdivision. And of course, what are they going to do? They're going to look to me as their leader. And in every one of those stories, that's how it is, right? What are these, guys? These are rooted in male fantasy thinking. Ben Raines, out of the ashes. Ben Raines, contact us. Oh, you're 65 and you're still, picking up 19-year-old women and killing all the bad guys single-handedly with your 1920s Thompson. Okay, guys, this is the problem again with various types of survival fiction. Is it gets into people's minds. They start thinking, oh, because guess what? Everybody wants what? Everybody wants what? They want the easy button. They want the easy way out. If somebody tells them that, no, you don't have to join a real group, you don't have to go out and work hard and learn and network with people and actually do stuff. No, you don't have to do that. You know what you can do? You can sit on your butt in the subdivision, and when the time comes, because you have some guns and some food, all of your unprepared neighbors who you don't know, who, probably nefarious people themselves, are going to look to you, to their leader. Again, rooted in male fantasy thinking. You want to be the big dog. You want to be the guy, you want to get all the chicks, all that sort of thing. You look at all of those survival fiction type books like that. What happens? Dude ends up losing his wife. All of a sudden, dude's got a boatload of, chicks swarming around him, that sort of thing. Guys, it's in all the books, guys. Read between the lines. Ben Raines type stuff. Brushfire Plague was like that. Great book. I've really liked it. Did a review of it on our forums. But it's big on the savior of the subdivision type thinking. What is this? This sort of thing is stopgap thinking. What do I mean by that? I mean, that's, again, how do I do it how do I make these plans and all that stuff without, without really doing work, without really meeting people and busting my butt for, 20 or 30 years or whatever to get out and be a part of a functioning group of like-minded people who are prepared ahead of time. In other words, what a real survival group is. Okay, guys, any plan that relies on the goodwill of people, here's the key, you don't really know, is going to fail. Okay, why? Because people will fail on you. That's life. That's not me being negative. That's real world. To get out and experience some things, guys. Anybody who does, yeah, sure. Any 19-year-old kid can get on here and sits and plays World of Warcraft 5 hours a day and everything, and go, oh, you're wrong about that. Why? Because they have little life experiences in that regard. Okay. Even good friends will let you down. That's life, okay? Who's going to let you down more? The people. Hey, look, we keep coming back to this concept. The people you don't really know. And, of course, who are you grouping up with in the savior of the subdivision mentality? You're grouping up with people like old Mr. Jones down the block, right? Old Mr. Jones, hey, you know him, right? You wave to him when you drive by when he's washing his car. So you know him, right? You don't know Mr. Jones, okay? Look at all, I mean without an exception, all of the times when you find on the news where the news cameras come in and they're like, 78-year-old old Mr. Jones at Main Street in upper suburbia there was found with 15 heads in his freezer, and this explains the disappearance of blah 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 women all the way dating back to 1970. And then what do all, without a doubt, all of the neighbors interviewed say? Mr. Jones is just a nice old man that kept to himself. Okay. Those are the people, guys. You don't, yeah, you might not have old Mr. Jones living right next to you, but you know what? You might have sexual predators in your area. You might have child molesters and, excuse my language, filthy bastards like that. All right, that you cannot afford to group up with people like that, guys. That's the reality of the situation, is you don't really know your neighbors, okay? So this concept that, you're going to work with your neighbors, if you really want to do that, guys, do it now. Get them preparing now, okay? I mean really preparing, not, hey guys, we're going to have a meeting about this and talk about a bunch of stuff we're never going to do. Or if the time comes, we'll just drop a couple trees to the front of the subdivision and we'll all be good. And I'll sit in my house with all of my food while all of you starve and nobody will notice. How stupid, guys. That's not a plan. Again, that's what we call it, stopgap thinking. That's easy button. That's, I don't really want to get out and meet people and work hard and train and develop contacts and stuff over a long period of time. I want a easy button approach. All right, easy button's going to get you killed, guys. So forget about the savior of the subdivision mentality. All right, here's a good thing for this. And do not watch this movie with your kids. All right, guys, there is crap on here that could really only be called straight up debauchery. But this is a kind of a post-apoc movie. What is it called? It's called The Divide. All right, it's set in New York, great city living and all that good stuff. And something, I guess it's a nuke, something like that, hits the city. Well, you got one dude here that's prepared, and he's, made a bunker. He's like the super in his building and everything. And he's quietly made a bunker in there after 9/11 and all this, that, and the other. And what happens is, kind of semi-unwillingly, he takes in a whole bunch of people from his, community that, maybe he thinks he knows, maybe he doesn't know. And, he starts off giving them a lot of stuff. Because why? Because now they're his charges. They're now his responsibility. And that's the same thing that happens with the savior of the subdivision. Is what's going to happen is all of his little cronies that he thinks are going to, die for him and worship the ground he walks on. And, all the chicks are going to want him and all of the, male fantasy thinking. What all they're going to do is they're going to look to him like he is now the government. And who is the government to most people like that? They are, give me something to eat, give me something to stay warm, you owes me. All right, and it goes a lot further than just ghetto rats and that sort of thinking, guys. A lot of people, we know from the last election, 49% of the country is like that. So watch this movie. Do not watch it with your kids. It is not for the squeamish of heart. I normally watch a lot of films like this I talk about multiple times. I don't really care to watch this thing again. But what happens is all of his community, good people, old Mr. Jones, only he's young deviants here and everything. One of these guys, I don't even remember which one. But anyways, they, of course, turn on him because at first, what is he doing? He, they think this is community communism, and they're expecting him to, although they came to the dance with absolutely nothing, they're expecting him to share everything he has with them, just like will happen one day with the savior of the subdivision. And what happens is, lo and behold, dude here is holding out. Why? Because he's done all this work. He wants to survive. These other people have done nothing. Well, what in their mindset says? Their mindset says, hey, this is all ours now. So what happens? Dude slips on a knife, slips and falls, and, falls on a knife 18 times backwards type of deal. All right. So again, not recommending that movie for its survival value, But it's something that any of, you know, these potential savior of the subdivision types that really think that plan's going to work, they need to watch that movie. It's the modern day version of, you know, the old The Shelter episode of Twilight Zone from the 60s, right? Guys, do you need other people? Yeah, without a doubt you need other people, all right? But you need to know them, and they need to be preparing. They need to be like-minded people that are actually doing stuff, not just reading the forums, not just reading, you know, bad survival fiction and everything, and doing research on things they'll likely never actually do. You want doers. You want people that are willing to go out and, you know, hike 20 miles with you, that are willing to go out and, you know, these are old school pictures, so I don't mind showing them. Most of these people, you know, some of them aren't even in the country anymore. Some of them, you know, are overseas. Some of them are dead, you know, the whole 9 yards. But this was, you know, 22 years ago, something like that. I mean, you know, this is the kind of real connections you have to make with people if you're going to be you know, training with them and things like that. Is you're going to have to develop that stuff where you get out, you do things like this with people. All right, you have fun, you learn stuff. You know, that's what that sort of community. Yeah, I'm all about it. You know, community as far as you know, grouping up with a bunch of retarded, you know, unprepared people from your subdivision. No, that's not going to work. So we have to start thinking out of the fiction mindset, and we have to get into reality. Anyways, guys, a little rant from me. Sorry it took so long. I'd enjoy your comments on this.